Hey folks, we have a small favor to ask. Please do not watch our videos on TikTok because they steal our content from YouTube. John Sykes had recently left the band Tigers of Pang Tang and was fulfilling his contract with MCA by recording a solo single titled Please Don't Leave Me in Dublin with producer Chris Tangarides. A longtime fan of the band Thin Lizzy, Sykes asked Tangarides to contact Phil Lynott about playing on the song. Phil agreed and brought along drummer Brian Downey and keyboardist Darren Wharton, leading Sykes to feel as if he was already a part of Thin Lizzy, despite Scott Gorham not being present. During the recording session, Phil asked Sykes if he wanted to join the band. John had another offer from Ozzy Osbourne, and he almost took the job, but chose Thin Lizzy due to his strong connection with Phil. They spent time together at the Pink Elephant Club to get to know each other. Then they flew back to London, and with a couple of days, Phil officially offered Sykes the position in the band. They went straight to the Boathouse, Pete Townshend's studios near Kew Bridge, to start writing for the album, where Phil encouraged Sykes to express his creativity. This marked a significant turn in Sykes' career, and he got into one of the iconic bands ever, Thin Lizzy. Here's how John Sykes left Thin Lizzy and joined Whitesnake. According to John Sykes, his performances impressed many in the Whitesnake camp during the Monsters tour, which led them to urge David Coverdale to recruit him for their next album and tour, Slide It In. The financial offers were significant enough for Sykes to take them seriously. David Coverdale's manager, Ossie Hope, contacted Sykes, inviting him to Munich to discuss the possibility of joining the band. I told Phil immediately what was happening, Sykes said. At the time, Phil was busy sorting out a few personal things with his wife. So I said, look, I'm just going to check this thing out, okay? Initially reluctant, Sykes went to Munich to meet Coverdale, although he was not a fan of Whitesnake's bluesy style. He had a positive discussion about a possible collaboration. Sykes made it clear he didn't want to be restricted in his musical expression. Here is what Sykes said. I told him, Coverdale, look, I'm not the sort of guy that's going to take being ordered around, and I don't want to be told what style to play. So if that's what you're looking for, then I'm not the guy for you. I was pretty strict with him, and we left it like that. After returning to England, Sykes received multiple calls from Whitesnake, each offering increasingly attractive financial terms. Initially, he turned them down, but when they asked how much he would need to join, he said a high price, expecting it to be rejected. Instead, they accepted his demand. Now, John Sykes recalls, then I flew back to England, and a couple of days later, I got a call from the Whitesnake people saying Coverdale wanted me to join. So I said, no, I'm going to stick with Phil. But then the next day they called again and made me a tempting financial offer. I still turned it down. Then they called back again the next day and said, well, how much do you want to join the band? So I put a price on my head, which I thought was way above what they'd pay. And they came back and said, okay, you've got it. I thought to myself, oh no, I suppose I got to join them now. So this left Sykes in a tough spot as he realized he had to join Whitesnake. He had an emotional conversation with Phil, who was understanding and supportive despite the disappointment of Sykes leaving. They shared a heartfelt moment, both in tears, with Phil expressing that he wouldn't hold Sykes back and genuinely wished him well. Mark Stanway noted that Sykes' departure was particularly hard for Phil, describing it as a kick in the teeth. Here is what Sykes recalls. So I went to Phil and told him that I'd had an offer. I couldn't refuse it. It was a really emotional moment. I was standing there with tears in my eyes, and he was sitting on his bed with tears in his eyes, and we just hugged each other and bubbled like babies. His attitude was, I'd never hold you back, I wish you well, whereas it could have easily been, to hell with you. He was a real gentleman about it. So Sykes' exit was a significant setback for Phil, as noted by Mark Stanway during that period. Overall, Sykes found himself facing an unexpected and difficult choice between loyalty to Phil and the appealing opportunity with Whitesnake. I hope you enjoyed this story about John Sykes. Please subscribe, give us a thumbs up, and leave a comment if you will. John Sykes will greatly be missed, and I hung out with him. I had the pleasure of hanging out with John, and coolest rock star I've ever met and hung out with. I used to go out to the clubs down there in Hollywood in the 80s and 90s, and met John Sykes at a nightclub. And so we talked for a while. It was so cool. He was such a nice guy. I couldn't believe how cool he was. And the only rock star to ask me what kind of gear I was using. And he was truly interested. We talked about his girl and gear, and what he was using. He was using Mesa Boogies, and I told him, I said, hey, I've never been a Mesa fan. I never liked the Mesa Boogies, and he told me why he liked them. And he asked me what I was using at the time. I was using Kramers and modified Marshalls, of course, 80s, and just an amazing guy, so cool to hang out with, and he's my favorite Thin Lizzy guitar player too. I know Gary Moore, I know, really, really good, and I love him, but yeah, John Sykes is more my kind of style, kind of guy. And I went and saw the Thin Lizzy tour that he did after Phil Lynott passed away, and he remembered me. He was on stage, he saw me, he goes, hey, and he points at me like, hey, John, how's it going? So that was pretty cool.